just impromptu.
Good morning.
Which I'm sure I will do fine.
You sure will. Good morning. This is Andrea coming to you from the DeAnna Center channel. And we've got DeAnna Batdorf here and a special guest, one of DeAnna's treasured students and an amazing practitioner in her own right, Simone. Welcome, ladies. How are you?
Doing really good.
Thank you, dear heart. Good morning. I'm feeling excellent. Got a little sweet kitten here to cuddle with, so no complaints.
Everything's better with a kitten.
I've had some birth energy in my home, getting ready for the birth alchemy course that starts on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice to have a little, birth that occurred in my home and to really be sharing the space with a baby growing up.
Yeah.
As the class has been filling up and, really finding its way. So I hope y'all join me.
Yeah, it's exciting.
As I started today, I was saying, impromptu, like I'm going to go impromptu today. I haven't had any moment to know any of the questions that are coming up today. Usually Andrea and I are like, let's look at the questions. So today really is a spontaneous day. And Simone and I wanted to represent India. And for all of you viewers who don't know Simone Oliver, she does really, well, let me just say this, empowered Ayurveda is really what she has coined and what she presents and what she provides to the world as a practitioner. And she has amazing hands. I know them very well on my body. She takes care of me and I take care of her.
Thank you. Always.
And it allows us to take care of the world together.
So
and it's really
trained
quite a beautiful...
Trained by the best.
For sure.
It does. It feels so good to be able to carry this work and to offer this. And I've been studying with my dear mentor and teacher for over 7 years. I've taken every one of her classes. I'm signed up for the Birth Alchemy. I have 2 sisters that I'm taking it with. So we're excited to study together and learn together. As a person who's not a mother, I have always shied away a little bit from this scope and expertise. And it's finally time for me to step forward and be able to support our community in a broader way. So I'm really excited because I know that there's a lot that's going to be coming in. And I don't know if you've noticed, Dee, but there are a lot of pregnant women in my world all of a sudden. All that time at home with COVID has posted an awful lot in our near future. So I know my immediate community is looking a little rounder lately. And yeah, so we're just going to get to continue to support everybody.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, that's
well, speaking as a mom, we can definitely enjoy having supporters. So thank you. All right.
Andrea,
yep, we've got a couple of questions. So the first question I have comes to you from Melissa. Melissa says that she had an esophageal-gastroduodenoscopy recently for her persistent digestive issues and GERD. And she said she could sense something was off. She's tried many alternative modalities over the years. In March, she was diagnosed with a 3-centimeter hiatal hernia. And she's wondering, are there any Ayurvedic visceral manipulation or abdominal massages that can heal it? Or is surgery the only viable option?
Okay, so there's a couple layers in this question. And I would say this is a question that affects a lot of people, which is having an imbalance of the immune mucosa, the mucin lining where our flora and our probiotics live. And that gets eaten up. That can be by a bacteria. That can be by acidic food. That can be something going on in the dental. Hint, hint. That could be really something like a cavity slow dripping, which is a different type of infection that gets down into your gut and eats away at that lining. So I could just be like probiotics, but we know we need probiotics. The idea with GERD would be there is definitely a lacking of Boulardii, which is a very specific prebiotic, like it's a very specific building block. And I would look for a megaspore if I was looking for a probiotic. I do like Microbiome Labs megaspore, but you want to get some Boulardii very specifically, and you can find that because it's a building block for the stomach, the esophagus. But I got to go back to dental.
Yeah.
Like
always.
just anytime I have a situation with someone that is a burning and fire rising, that's how this happens. And then let's remember, fire destroys tissue. And we're going to knock on wood for always when we have to talk about fire now. I just innately knock on wood. I mean, that's just my thing now, no matter where I am. So, the more dry, the more the fire flares, and that fire rises and it's burning from the stomach. And right where this esophagus meets the stomach is this little O-ring muscle, little sphincter muscle. And that's called the hiatus. So that's where we get hiatal hernia. And it means that that band of muscle, basically it just ensures that your food doesn't go boom, so it kind of like slow moves it through, and it slowly breaks up particulates so that it's more digestible to your stomach. But what happens with that little sphincter muscle is it swells. And so there's already this inflammatory eating away at your immunity and your basically your water, value in this area. Then it swells that hiatus. And what happens with that is instead of it swelling and kind of going like this and making a big opening, it swells and it thickens and it makes a tiny little pinhole, which is why people also get a lot of like food stuck and can really, really choke on their food very easily. Unfortunately, I grew up with a father who had this, and sometimes it would happen. And there's a couple times, that's a Mexican restaurant story. If anybody knows me, I have Mexican restaurant stories. One of those is definitely my dad choking to death and turning blue, and somebody knew how to do Heimlich maneuver and saved his life right in front of us.
Wow.
Because of a hiatal hernia. So it's a swelling. So I know a lot about this. My dad's is gone, by the way, completely healed. And that's what we'll get to here. But it's important to know this because people have hiatal hernias and they don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
You got to know what it is if you're going to help change your body. So you're thinking about cooling that down. Aloe vera, hands down. I cannot tell you enough about it. Chewing on mint leaves, great too. Those are two go-tos for me that, you could be on regularly, daily. Half a cup every morning, every night, 10 mint leaves a day, half a cup of aloe vera juice, inner fillet, right? So you don't need the laxatives, you need the cooling agent. So those are two things I could just like right now, you need to cool things down. That would do it. But those also tonify because they're bitters.
And everybody has mint in the garden. That's something you can literally walk out and daily grab a couple of the choicest leaves and just make sure that you're getting them throughout the day.
Yeah, it grows in a pot. If you don't have a backyard, easy. And if neither one of those are working for you, it's also right in your grocery store. You just have to be willing to pick it up and take it home. It's not the most common one we pick up.
I just added chocolate mint to my garden. So I'm getting my chocolate craving handled in one regard.
Wow. Oh, that's a great one. So yeah, basically you need bitters and cooling, but you don't want to forget about hydrating and probiotic. So you need the megaspore and you need to stay on it for like 3 months. And to be honest, if you've had GERD for even 2 years, you might even want to think about just this 6 months because you're having to build a colony. We don't build communities overnight.
Right.
You gotta build a community slow and make sure everybody's got a job and knows where to live. And
it's been so hot in there. It hasn't really been a comforting place for everything to live, those healthy probiotics.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot like them trying to grow things on Mars. I mean, I'm not joking, you know, I mean, can they tend to that land? Can they see? Well, they found life. So that was a game changer. And so, you know, you find life in here, you start building a cool, calm, collect community, those megaspores. And that's the long-term healing of the tissue. We can cool down that tissue. We can tonify that tissue with bitters. We can pull the heat out of that tissue. But how are you going to build new healthy tissue? Which really is what you're trying to do if you don't want surgery.
Those first things will provide immediate relief, but what are you doing for the long game? And this didn't happen overnight, so it's not going to get fixed overnight. So you do have to be a little bit patient and a little bit committed sometimes when dealing with something so big.
Yeah. But it absolutely, I mean, I got my dad off of living on Tums and hiatal hernia medicine, and then it was making high blood pressure. I mean, he's 83 in July and is not on a single medication, which is amazing.
Yeah, that really is.
So, you know, he takes his Aloe and does his piece, and it's really shifted everything. So those are the things I think of, is like, you got to cool it down and tonify it, but you got to build some healthy tissue. And so there is some picture of needing collagen here, or hyaluronic acid. I have kind of I'm building a new ebook. You know, I'm kind of looking at like, what's the next one that's really accessible to people. And I feel like it's the trine of building blocks. Like there's a building block trine: collagen, hyaluronic acid, lecithin. You know, so thinking about where do you get those, look those up online, get a list of where that is. Bone broth covers it all, you know, with no flesh to have to digest. Seaweed, well, no, seaweed doesn't have any collagen, but it has collagen supporters, it has support. So it's a good one. But seaweed would be a brilliant thing for you to be like sucking on it and slow dripping that down and making a nice little coating. Yum, yum.
And I know, in the past, you've talked about slippery elm lozenges as being a real demulcent, something that's actually going to create that mucin lining where the probiotics have to live when it's been such a hot environment. You need more of those demulcents. So like a really nice marshmallow tea, licorice tea, thinking of all of those types of herbs that have those qualities.
That's right. Wow.
Yay.
Well, we just made a whole protocol.
Very nice.
Give it time though. Simone has a good point.
Yeah. It makes me think of my dad. He's every night with the ice cream before bed, and then he wants to go lay down and he goes, why do I'm indigestion. It's like, oh man. Our papas. They need our help.
Was there a particular seaweed that you had in mind?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna chew or suck on a seaweed, I wouldn't really say. I mean, kombu would be brilliant, but I don't think that'd be as kelp. And you could even think about a little kelp powder. You know, make a kelp powder and just put in a little bit of water and just kind of, sip it down a little bit. But kelp would probably be an easy to find.
I love the taste of sea palm. If anybody's out near the coast and you can harvest your own, if you've ever eaten it fresh, it is one of the most miraculous and delicious tastes I've ever had.
Yeah, which is wakame.
And how about a goopty ball? Would you do anything in honey that would be like some other kind of powder?
I think usually honey is a little bit astringent.
Okay.
It's a little bit, you know how you can eat too much honey and you almost get like a little harsh thing that happens in the throat. Anybody ever experienced this? And I do honey really well, easily, but it's astringent and pungent enough that I don't think it's really gonna help.
Good. I'm glad for that clarification.
With that one.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So our next question came over from Instagram from Moisture Wiccan. We've heard from Moisture Wiccan before.
Yes.
And they're wondering, how do I work on reducing my crazy histamine response to summer's bug bites and poison ivy? They say it feels like their whole body's on fire.
Yikes. And it's only getting warmer as the temperatures rise. That's got to be really uncomfortable. So I give you a lot of consideration there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, it's a good question. I think a lot of the things we just mentioned actually fit right in this category as far as like histamine is very dry and hot. And we just had an example of somebody who, even though they had GERD or are wondering about surgery or not, I didn't answer the massage question. So I'll go back to it. I'll stay here now. But, there's a similarity just in dry and hot. And unfortunately, it's getting drier and hotter. So we are all experiencing certain levels of that. So I feel like that's probably something to think of. We're still in the aloe, seaweed, all of those. But I'm going to give you a really brilliant, super easy histamine response calmer. And it is called lavender. Lavender is my most favorite antihistamine ever.
Yay. I just drove by the lavender farm on the way here. It's too cool.
And I mean, it just is such a wonder. People are like, I can't believe it. I have them do 10 drops every morning, every night, right side of your rib cage, which is basically where your liver is. And that's where histamine response happens. And you should know that you're allergic to it's protein. We're allergic to protein molecules. That's what makes an allergen. So yes, there's protein in the pollen or dander of the animal, and then there's food protein molecules that we can be allergic to. But it means your liver is not able to digest that protein and turn it into bile, hormones, amino acids, and enzymes. Yeah, bile, hormones, amino acids, and enzymes. Those are the 4 most important things that your protein intake provides you with as a breakdown of that protein to micronutrients, and your liver does it. So your liver has a really hard time with being able to break down a certain, type of protein, and it starts responding. And that lavender is such a brilliant, just like chill the liver out and just allow it to continue doing its job and not release that histamine. So you don't have to have so much of a response. With children, I usually say, half the dose, but it's really safe. And it's even safe, like in pregnancy, I'll say, I don't really want you doing 10 drops twice a day. But, I do think the more a plant has the job when someone's pregnant, the more it's really not getting to the baby, it's getting to the job. Like I like to think of that. And so I usually put them at about 6 drops twice a day as a max, or a child, 4 to 6 drops. But I'll even, get like I get histamine response in skin conditions myself. And I'll take, 10 drops of that lavender when I start noticing I'm getting itchy, which is my early, like, oh, I did something and I've got a rash coming on, and it'll kick in. If I have a really strong response, like I can get hives. Yeah. So if I can go to that place, then I start thinking about blue yarrow, which is worth every penny, even at $100. You know what I mean? Because it's 1 drop wonder. And so that means even a, 5 mil, which is cheaper, it's worth it because you only need like 1 drop in the morning, 1 drop at night. You don't need to do both. I usually keep yarrow for like, whoa, I'm really flared. And then, sometimes I'll do them both if I'm in a flare for a couple days, but I usually use the yarrow for a flare and the lavender for daily.
And an essential oil, again, is transdermal. So it's going to go right into the bloodstream through the skin. So she's really talking about putting that lavender directly on the liver. That's below the rib cage here on the right-hand side of the body, right side. So. Yeah.
So that's my favorite thing. I mean, I love the bee, like doing like a bee pollen, that's where honey, like reigns supreme. For me, honey and bee pollen local is so good, but it's not for the histamine happening now. It's more like, hey, let me get ahead of this. So the honey and the bee pollen would have been started in winter or at least January, and you'd be on it as part of your food source, and put it into salad dressings and, find places to put it. But, I haven't seen it to give a immediate relief like the lavender or the blue yarrow.
And I'm always reminded that when we're having a histamine response, the body is pretty much throwing like a wet blanket over a fire. So a lot of times mucus will come up, and then you're dealing with what's happening in the sinus tract. And that's where I love to do the neti pot with Ayurveda. We're really big on keeping those tracts open, cleansed, you're able to have the best immune response when you're not full of mucus. So
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
No, that's a great thing, because that's the secondary symptom. You have your primary symptom of histamine, and that's fire flushing out, telling you that you need some help. Not being able to break down protein is actually a danger zone for your body, which is why the histamine talks so loud. It's kind of like, hey, you need to know this, but our secondary symptom would be all the congestion left over from that response. Your body made mucus. We have a fire engine. It screams. It's like, you need to know this. Doo-doo-doo-doo, siren. And then our body literally delivers water from that fire engine, to the place that is an issue. And that's why we end up with mucus when we get sick. Our immune system makes it to actually put out our fire. But the problem is it doesn't change you breaking down a protein. So now you're just left with a bunch of mucus, and then you have to use your neti pot and clear it out.
I've been doing a lot of eye treatments lately, the Netra, where we actually put a dough dam around the eye and we massage, palpate the tear duct, really open that tract of any old mucoid plaque that's actually settled in there and dried. People would be really surprised how much gravel and everything is in the eyes. They're so dry. And lately, I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of clients, they use station tube in the side of the neck. I think a lot of the mask use, what my endocrinologist friend has talked about with me, is that we're literally muzzled to where we're not opening our mouth as large. We're not talking and using the same amount of languaging. We're really, everything's kind of withheld in this masked state. So what I've noticed is that people are really clogged in the use station, and that the jaw is really held and tight. And so just doing a lot of body work lately to open that up and do a lot of flushing of the eyes. The whole nervous system is needing it. And that's back to adding lecithin. I think we talked about that a few minutes ago. That's something I just added to my repertoire again. I had kind of let go of it for a little bit. And I was just feeling that my nervous system needed that buffer, that, being someone who's a little bit subtle to bright sounds and smells and activity and things going on, everything I can do to just give myself that little bit of buffer for the world, I'm able to be more centered. I'm able to be more present and less irritable. And so it's just such a win. I just take the sunflower lecithin in a capsule form.
Yeah.
I'm looking for it, maybe sunflower butter instead of peanut butter, lots of sunflower seeds, making pesto with them.
Yeah.
Getting it in where I can.
Yeah. And runny egg yolk. Runny egg yolk is the other place you can probably get the most concentrated amount of lecithin, so that's another place you can do it.
Well, then you got chickens in your backyard.
Know it.
We'll be having some eggs later.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I would go with that. I wouldn't hit those allergies too hard, I would really try something for like a good 10 days and see if you can really see it shift things before you add something else. I do know I do notice allergies are very irritated by too many things being done, like, oh, let me try this. Oh, now I'll bring in milk thistle. Now I'm going to do the nettle. Now I'm going to, It's like, pick just a few little things you want to try and stay with it. Because, that'll bring on a flare if it's too complicated for the liver.
I think the second part of the question, the person was asking about bug bites. Is there anything you would do topically? I mean, there's probably not a lot in prevention mode, but what essential oil, or what would you make a paste? What would you do for an irritated bug bite?
I mean, which is an antihistamine, you could use that lavender. I mean, just honestly.
Yeah.
But, I like frankincense more for bug bites and
Okay.
wounds.
I was asking.
And rashes. I like frankincense better. I don't think of lavender as my favorite first aid, for abrasions and things. I think of Frankie, but I do think that lavender would work. And then you got one bottle that does multiple things, but you just tap it right on there and it takes the itch out. I just don't think we consider, like, we're all, oh, the itch, but we don't really consider like, oh, I should tap a little essential oil on there and get the itch out, which means you're calming down the histamine response. And then there was another part of that question, which was about poison oak or poison ivy. And I got my first bout really bad last year. I'm going to knock on wood again, because I do not want to go through that. But I was just up at the Avenue of the Giants and I got it started
Oh boy.
in the same spot as last year.
Wow.
And it was like, oh my God, I don't want to go through that. You know, so
Nip it in the bud.
This is new and I'm not digging on it, but I came home. I put the Manzanita Magic on it, which they have at Rosemary's Garden.
Rocks.
I put that on there. But what I've been doing, and it worked brilliantly, like it stopped it in its tracks. I did poison ivy homeopathic. So now I'm on homeopathic poison ivy, 10 drops twice a day in my water. And it literally, I woke up, like my whole family was here and they were like, oh my gosh. And I was like, okay, stay calm, DeAnna. I don't want to go through that again. Stay calm.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm taking that homeopathic that's been sitting there that I bought and haven't been
specifically
taking.
for this.
And it like, boom. And so I'm like, I'm going to stay on homeopathic poison ivy through the season, you know, and see if I can't get this to move out of my system. So that's what I'm doing for that.
It's funny how sometimes we'll have things in our cupboard that we've bought in previous situations and you've just kind of out of sight, out of mind. I mean, I don't know how many sunscreens I've got when I pull up in the drawer, and I'm actually just going through a lot of my things, getting ready for a move. And wow, I just get excited when I find there's actually something on the shelf that I could have used. It might not be the exact thing that we recommend, but if you really go, use your intuition, do a little research, you very well might have something on hand that's going to help whatever situation you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I feel like so much of what we do is reminders for people.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm not always educating you and telling you the most brilliant new age news. I'm just reminding you of some really core facts. And that's what I love about Ayurveda. This work has been out for thousands of years. And that's just the proof enough that these methods truly work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also think of like, how do you keep it creative? Like I purposefully put lamb's quarter in my hair today because I didn't want to forget to talk about it.
Oh.
And it's always, every garden I ever have, it's like there's always all this lamb's quarter, and it's so cute because they're like the fuzzy little leaves and they make the cute little lavender, you know, stem tops, and they grow so high up into the sun. And so I love them. But, you know, and they're fully edible. They're very nourishing. I mean, so cooling and nourishing. I'm always looking for cooling, nourishing, you know,
that's your
like
medicine.
we need it, you know? And I'm just like, but I just don't love these little fluffy, hairy leaves in my salad. Huh. You know what I mean?
Texture
like,
is important.
I'm just like, and they're, you know, they're like really fibrous, and I'm just like, and then they're sensitive to heat. So every time I make a tea, it feels like I destroyed it. So I was doing one of the edible Ayurveda live cooking demos a couple months ago. And I was actually in the like, oh my gosh, I'm running behind, I'm not very prepared for this one. And I stepped outside and I was like, who can I call forward to cook or make something today? And I kept seeing the lamb's quarter. And so I looked over, and I'll make this quick because I'm sure there's questions, but I looked over and I thought, wait a minute, what if I actually soaked that soft little leaf in oil? And what if I then emulsified it and blended it, and would it become creamy? Wow. Because the leaves look kind of soft, thick, and creamy. Yeah. And oh my gosh, it is my favorite emulsifier. I'm like totally crazy for this stuff now. It worked, and I did it live. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to put lamb's quarter in my oil. And
way to use your intuition and be creative.
And I'm telling you, it makes the most creamy, thick, beautiful, nourishing salad dressing. Yeah. I put a little honey. I put a little mustard powder, because you don't have to use mustard. You can use mustard powder, and you can have mustard flavor.
Without all the sugar and preservatives.
Without all the stuff.
Love that.
And I've been making this honey mustard lamb's quarter dressing that is so incredibly good and so easy. That's so brilliant. That is my little recipe.
It grows everywhere.
So you just got to stay creative.
Yeah.
You got to stay creative, you know? Yeah, you got the plantain and the dandelions out in your yard that everybody thinks is weeds. And those are amazing in a pesto.
Oh gosh.
Amazing in a pesto with some basil or cilantro. And then you're getting all this medicine fresh.
And immediate skincare. I mean, throw a little chewed up plantain right on your bug bite or any sort of skin issue or a cut outside. And if that's all you've got working outdoors, you're set.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, Andrea, what's the next one?
Great. Well, did you want to pop back to discuss
Yeah, the body work.
abdominal or gut massage?
So that is a tricky question. Maybe that's why I avoided it. It's a tricky question only because it depends on how weak your tissue is. So if you have GERD that is like eaten, like perforated your intestines, you know, and they're actually wanting to go in because your tissue has been destroyed, you still could rebuild it, but that's going to take a long time.
Mhm.
And you do have bacteria getting into your body. So, you know, it's like, you don't want to take too much time, but if the tissue is too weak, you don't really want to be doing a lot of massage or gua sha. You can do some rubbing and you get some shea butter on there and you can tonify it and you can love it up. But, you know, it might be better to, you know, do more like castor oil compresses, you know, like make a castor pack and hot water bottle or a warm rock on there. And you might need more, you know, just calming and, you know, treating that tissue with care. If you don't have weak like tissue like that and you've more built scar tissue, because some people, when they have that much inflammation, their body just keeps making scar tissue. So if you're all bound up in there and there's like a bunch of, you know, rubber bands and a bunch of adhesions, or if you feel like your stomach, this is a lot to say on a camera, but if your stomach is kind of matted and is kind of hardened up against your diaphragm, which happens a lot. Like if you can't get under your diaphragm, there's some matting.
Yeah.
You want to break that up. You know, like that needs a gua sha. It still needs castor pack, soften it up, but it needs some gua sha. It needs some rubbing, some massaging, and you'd want to get up under that rib cage from the center, and you'd want to just really scoop your fingers in there and slide out to the floating rib and just keep opening both those sides. And then go in there with the gua sha, both directions. And you want to make more breathing room because scar tissue does bound you up.
That was exactly what I was going to say. Anyone that I work on that has matting under the rib cage doesn't usually get a complete deep breath. Like they literally have that obstruction and inability to open because it's extremely tight. And so going in there with a warm stone, that's another thing that you've taught me. So you can heat up a warm rock, the darker the better, they'll hold the heat longer. I'll put it in a, you know, warm boiling water or in the microwave even for 30 seconds, maybe for a minute. And then the roundedness of that warm stone is able to get into those crevices, and I'll use it in the armpits, and just, it's so relaxing to have heat when you're trying to get into something that's tough. It's going to help soften it. So.
Yeah. And sometimes the edge of a rock is just, it's a little calmer than the edge of a gua sha.
Or pointy fingers.
You know,
I do notice that.
You can kind of dig a little bit more and the heat helps melt everything as you go.
Yeah. Just working on getting that deep breath. I love what I call twofers for clients, having them do two things at once to really get the most out of your time. And so if you lay with your back flat on the ground and your legs up the wall, that's just a really nice relaxing pose. And then putting a heavier object on the stomach to kind of bring the awareness to the breathing. So whether it's a sound bowl, a really pretty crystal, a heavy book, I mean, a rock, pick what you've got, your kitten, and then just kind of watching, is your stomach really softening on the inhale? We want that to blow up big like a balloon. And I think a lot of the practices that we've done, whether it's, you know, pulling your mula bandha and get your core tight and suck in your gut, from the messaging from a lot of different angles, we really have kind of learned to hold tension in the stomach rather than letting it just be really loose and relaxed and soft. So a lot of times when I find I'm under stress, I'm holding my breath, and it's especially in that upper area and in the stomach. And I just have to sometimes literally put something heavy on there to bring my awareness to it. Spend 5 minutes, and that anti-gravity with the legs up the wall at the end of a day, that can just be so peaceful, so relaxing. And then if you were to open the legs in a V shape, that's relaxing the psoas muscle, which is engaged constantly. And we really don't ever get a chance to let that muscle relax. So that's one of the few ways too, when I'll get people to like soften the belly, open the legs,
and
relax.
It opens the core,
Relax
which is where the psoas lives. Yeah.
That muscle of control, just try to give it up for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. And think about it. If you suck in your gut right now, it goes right up into your diaphragm and you have an upward push. So a lot of times when people have digestive issues, they're like, I've tried every food, I've tried every remedy. Like, what could this be? They don't have any dental cavities, they don't have anything. And then I'll kind of look and I'll see that they're breathing like this, but they're not breathing in their abdomen. So I know they're in a hold. And if you're holding, all your energy goes up. It's called Udana Vayu, upward air. And it pushes everything up. And it's actually an irritant for the body, or it'll even make ringing in the ears with somebody with GERD. Or they'll start noticing they have dry receding gums from holding tension with their GERD.
Wow.
And all of those things are related to that holding. So Simone brings in a really important layer of, you know, like what might be going on with the tissue and needing body work in that space versus what are you putting in, you know? Yeah.
That's important to remember and useful for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, we're waiting on questions. While we wait, Simone, what's been coming up for you?
I have one.
Dr. Mike.
Well,
good.
But what I was thinking, it kind of was sparked by our conversation a little bit ago about honey and how she said it can be super helpful with allergies, but it takes a little bit of time to build up. And that's something that you'd be doing in the winter time. And then it made me think about, you know, well, then you go into the spring and you're hoping to do maybe a spring cleanse. One thing that teacher taught me years ago was the idea that in Egypt, they do Fulma damas. And so their spring cleanse is for, you know, usually the head of the household to make big pots of fava bean with tons and tons and tons of garlic. And they eat that almost as a mono diet. And every day the mom goes over and lifts up the child's armpit and smells in there to see if there's any, to see if the smell of garlic is still coming out strongly, because garlic is going to be pushing out those toxins. So I myself have always done a spring cleanse, and confession, this year I did not get to it. And I think I'm really missing it because now, teacher, I have a rash under my armpit.
Oh,
yeah. So I know that's one of the primary areas that our body is excreting. You know, we're looking for all the ways to push toxins out. That's why we really encourage clients, drink plenty of water after body work. Make sure you're actually using the bathroom. Lots of toxins dump into the digestive tract. If you're stopped up and constipated, all that stuff's going to be reabsorbed and recirculated when we're really trying to push it out. It's like we've spent a lot of time and work getting that stuff stirred up. Let's have it exit out the body nicely and easily, and lots of sweating. And my sauna's been broken. I've been waiting on a part for it. So I think just a few of my normal routine things didn't happen this year. And I'm kind of looking at, you know, how I can address a skin condition that I've never had before.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I have 3 different ideas for this skin condition. And I think this is going to be an interesting topic.
Good.
So first off, the first thing I think of is you might have answered your own question, which was you need to do Fulma damas. Like you might have just literally like, you know, outed yourself in like what you need.
Order a bulk bag of fava.
And really you're just pressure cooking fava beans, fresh fava beans. You can do it with canned, but fresh really makes a difference, with the most garlic you can possibly handle, which is like an entire, if you do like 4 cups of fava, you're going to do a whole clove of garlic, you know, an entire, you know, bulb of garlic. And you're going to do like maybe 6 lemons, you know, and you're just going to pressure cook that down. And you're going to make this really tart, lemony garlic fava bean kind of paste. You know, it's good to keep the fava beans a little more whole, but often they soften up enough to where they go to a paste. And then you just put a layer of greens on top, cooked greens or arugula fresh, and then a whole layer, like a little 1/4 of an inch layer of olive oil, green, good green, bitter olive oil. And that is a liver gallbladder cleanse. So you may have really done that. And the one thing Simone didn't say is you smell the armpits of garlic until that smell goes away. And so, you know, every day, like the first time I did it, I think I was like, I don't know if I remember anymore. I think it was like 14 days or something. And I was like, dang, you know, but it's like,
get out.
But I learned this pretty young, and, you know, I had things to move out of my system from childhood. So, you know, usually now I'm about 5 days, and that's all you eat. It's mono diet, you know, and so that's a great, really reliable liver gallbladder cleanse. So that may be it, but there's 2 other options here for Simone. First off, armpits are moist, and fungus loves moist areas. There could be a chance it's fungal. And so you just want, and fungus is among us, meaning it's contagious. So, you know, a partner that has maybe tinea, or maybe you were in somebody's hot tub, or you shared a bathroom you're not normally in. Unfortunately, you know, fungus grows in moist areas and then it attaches to the skin. So it could be that. Okay. Then there's a third option, which is what I actually think it is.
What's that?
I think she might be having essential oil
overload.
Oh,
wait.
I think she's having essential oil toxicity. The most common place this shows up is in my armpits.
I've been using a lot of oils with clients.
I know she's been all about her essential oils right now.
I'm anointing everyone.
She's like crazy anointing. Like she's like, you know, I'm just kidding.
I love their medicine. It's so strong.
And then she also uses them in her massage oil. And, you know, then there's all the creams that have them in. It adds up. And I think it's a really important thing for us to talk about, because if you're not getting headaches you can't explain, or if you're starting to grind and clench your teeth in a way you haven't, that's another one.
That was happening about a month ago.
Okay. And then rash is when it starts trying to push itself out, and it often goes through the sweat glands. So someone will get a rash in their groin or up on their neck or in their armpits is the most common place. See it. And so let me look at it one more time and let's see if it is maybe fungal. No, it's hiving. Fungus is going to be like a whole huge coating. Hers is more in little blotchies, and those are little hives in her armpit. I think she has essential oil toxicity. I've had it many times in my life.
Wow. Okay.
Obviously, I see it like how many times? How many hundreds, literally, of times do you think I've seen this with people? And I've had to say, it's not just, you know, a perfume and you can douse yourself or put as much as you want in the tub. In fact, they're even more aggressive with heat. So when you put them in your bath, you do not want to need, you don't need more than 6 drops. And if you ever put the wrong one in your bath, you know it burns like major, all kinds of places. Not just your eyes. You know what I'm saying?
Essential oils are extremely powerful medicine. I mean, when you gave me the image of the time that you went to India before I got to go on the trip with you, and she said they went to visit the place where they make essential oils out of roses, and they had mountains. I mean, literal tarps laid out with mountains of rose petals, and how many that you need to make 1 drop of oil. It's a lot of plant material. So I think I can certainly overuse essential oils really easily, being so passionate about the blends that I find and helping other people and wanting to use it in a ceremonial way. And I'm going to just have to be more mindful
the
about
sacred
the
drop.
dosage.
And I've had to learn, I can't like put it on me and then put it on them, or put it on their body and then rub my hands across it. So I have to learn, like, I can have a certain amount in my essential oil. If I'm going to do, you know, let's go all number. Cause like I have to sometimes go way low because I'll be touching hundreds of bodies in a month. But even if I just saw 10 people in a week and was going to put massage on, you know, oil on them, I better keep it to 10 drops of essential oil in that oil is a max, which means if I want them to smell more than that, I'm going to need to make sure, like, okay, I did their whole side. Now I'm going to anoint their spine, you know, and that only needs a drop or two really. And then I roll them over, you know, kind of do it that way. You know, and then maybe I'm going to start at the feet. So I put the couple drops up at their chest, or, you know what I mean? Or on their neck. And then I let it absorb into their body. And then by the time I get there, there's nothing there going into mine. So Simone made the point earlier, they're transdermal. So when you are putting your hands in essential oils, you're not just putting them on your client, they're going into your body too. So just keep that in mind. This is a really common thing, but that is more hives because of its, you know, structure.
I want to say two things. One, I think you've told us before about if you feel like you've overdosed on essential oils, you can absorb it with fats. So drinking a big glass of milk would be like a quick and easy way. Yogurt, right? Potentially just finding that the fats can kind of bind to some of that and calm your system. And the tinea, that's something that I've had before in the past. It's what is often called howley rot. It's where when you get sun, it shows an absence of sun. So they'll call them sunspots at times. So it's sort of a white area rather than the sun being able to make your skin tan. Because you've got the fungus there, the sun is not penetrating and it leaves a lack of a tan. And that's how you often know. And that'll be from like moist towels. I know in the tropics, I think is where I got it when I was in the Caribbean. The towels aren't drying out all the way. You're in the beach constantly. Damp linens. It's really contagious. So if your partner or somebody else, you know,
rolling around together, you're going to get it.
Fungus. It's so common. I can't tell you. I see it on a lot of clients in their groin area for folks that carry a lot of moisture down there.
And it's the same thing as athlete's foot, which is the same thing as what we think of as jock itch. So jock itch, athlete's foot, you know, tinea, these are all fungal. You know, they're all the same thing. They different names for different areas, but then that doesn't make us be able to make common sense of the situation that like they're all fungal, you know, living in moist areas.
And that one can be hard to kick, you know, once it kind of digs in, it's not the easiest. I've done not the apple cider vinegar, the grapefruit seed extract.
I was just going to go there.
Yeah, that one's really potent. And you've had me dilute it and put it in water and spray it on. And there are times when I just put it directly.
Put it right on there. Like if she wanted to know if that was fungal or not, the quickest way to see would be if she did put GSC on there, you know, for like 4 or 5 days. If it started going away from GSC, probably it is a fungal, you know. If it didn't go away or affect it, then she's probably going to know it wasn't fungal. And, you know, because GSC is not going to just take away a rash, you know, it might even irritate a rash if it's not fungal, you know, not major, but it, you know, it's not going to like take it away. So then you would know, you know, but GSC really is my go-to for tinea. And maybe I'll just say there is about 100 different types of tinea.
Oh, wow.
So you should look them up online. They're easy to find. So there is the one that changes pigment color and it's white, but there's also one that is brown and makes super blotchy discoloration. Almost people look like they have skin on their skin, but it's
I've
not.
seen that.
But you see a lot of the brown. In fact, it's more common than the one that is pigment white. And then there's also a couple that are red. And show up more like this, you know, but they're more rare. So the redness in there kind of makes me, you know, be like, is that fungal or not? But, you know, but yeah, so it's red, brown, or white. And brown is the most common, I have to say. You know, somebody who's like, what's all this discoloration on my back? It's like, hands down. As soon as somebody says, will you look at the discoloration on my back? I mean, or on my torso, the most common place people get it. And I'm like, I already know where we're going.
We're really moist. I think last year I got it. I was wearing a lot of sports bras and I was working on a friend's permaculture farm because, you know, COVID times where we had a lot of free time on my hands suddenly. And just being in the soil and maybe not showering as much and being a lot sweatier than I normally am and out of my environment. You know, it's important to keep our pH balanced. I was probably maybe sipping a few too many kombuchas occasionally or whatever that looked like. So
you could be sipping worse than kombucha.
The hard kombucha. Wink.
Okay, gotcha.
a little too much sugar there.
So let's ask Simone a question for good diagnostics. Where was that tinea last year?
On my back.
Was it on that side of your back?
It's just kind of spread across.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's within the region of where she has this new rash. So that kind of makes me still have a little bit of a
concern.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think, you know, change your essential oil use and try the GSE, and I think you'll figure out which one it is.
Yeah. That's really important.
And if she hasn't been sweating as much, she is going to get a bigger buildup of essential oils. So that's one of the reasons I love a good steam room or a sauna or even sweating in my garden, because I know I'm releasing all those oils that I put on bodies, and that means I got a percentage of them too.
You know, that's a really good point. I had surgery in February and I was a little more sedentary than I usually am. And so I think all of these things are adding up. Not doing the spring cleanse, not being as physically active and sweating as much, my sauna being broken. It's just a few little things have added up, and that's how important self-care is. And that's why we've really got to keep at it. It's not, oh, I'm going to attack it and then ditch it. You know, you want to have some sort of habits that come in. And one thing that teacher taught me years ago that I just took to heart, and I tell every single client, and it just makes it so much more like manageable to think, set aside 2 hours, 1 day a week as your self-care time. And if that looks like a Monday morning or a Saturday afternoon, it's your 2 hours. And what I love that you said is that you put on a pot of soup or you put on some tea, so you have a little meal at the end of it. And as you spend that 2 hours doing what you actually need to get done that week for your highest good. So you walk to the medicine cabinet, and I love that. I can just see you there kind of looking on Monday morning, like, oh, okay, do I need a neti pot today? Am I feeling stuffed? Do I want to do a face steam first? I've got all these fresh herbs and flowers popping off, and I want to treat myself in that way to this beautiful facial steam. I mean, it is the medicine that's coming in, but it's the practice and the ritual and the intention that goes into our self-care time that I feel like really is as much of the healing as the other piece. Just the fact that I've gifted myself this 2 hours, even if I took a nap, I'm going to feel great about doing what my body needed in that moment for that week. So, you know, is it doing a yoni steam? I actually brought, I have something special.
Show and tell.
I have a giveaway. Giveaway. Let's say the second question that comes in will get this giveaway. I made with my girlfriend this week 3 different yoni steam blends. So we have a Lotus Love, a Bee Balance, that's for the microbiome. It's got usnea in it. It's got bay leaf. It has, oh boy, I've got a whole list of ingredients here for all of these.
Great.
Calendula, rose, mullein, usnea, oat straw, mugwort, bay leaf. Yeah. So there's 3 giveaways here. They'll all be in one package for the second question that comes in. So if anybody has a question that they want answered about their own health, go ahead and shoot it over now and send me a little message and with your address, and I'll go ahead and send you these 3 yoni steam blends, because that's what I've been geeking out on lately. I've had a lot of clients that are a little older, that are approaching menopause and starting to get some dry symptoms in that area. So that's kind of actually what spurred this, was the need that a lot of different clients have come to me asking, begging, what do you do to moisten that area later in life when it just naturally is drying out? I've tried all the creams, I've tried all the things. And so I thought of a specific steam blend that's going to bring moisturizing content up into the yoni space. So yeah, I found a great guy in Petaluma that's making these really sturdy steam stools. And so that prompted me to make these beautiful blends, and I'm just super excited to share them. You know, the need is there and the medicine is here. So just blended it up to offer it out. And yeah.
Well,
Can I tell
we are coming.
Go ahead.
Well, we are coming to the end of our hour, and we do have a question. So because it's so close, I think our person should get that steam set. That's Amy, who's posing a question. I think Amy should get our giveaway. So Amy asks, would like to know what someone can do to heal from the fear of being seen and the healing from zero to low self-confidence.
That's such a precious question, Amy. I really just want to honor and respect you for being so vulnerable. I really take that to heart, and I see you, and taking the little step just to put that out there is showing how much self-respect you actually do have for yourself.
Yeah.
And I just want to acknowledge that first. And it's a journey and a battle, uphill sometimes to continue to hold yourself in high regard and find the strength to persevere and to keep showing up. And I've been in a lot of sister circles. I've had to do a lot of healing to really be in a place to come forward. And I will give this person a lot of credit for that too, to find a mentor and someone that really believes in you when you're not totally sure what the heck you're doing or who you are or where you're thinking that you need to be or what you're providing. And yeah, finding this healing work has allowed me to find myself. And my teacher really held the space for me to get there. So finding allies might be a really helpful thing for you. That's my
That's really great advice. And yeah, that validation, I'm just proud of you right now for being willing to come forward when the question was about having a hard time coming forward. And with that, I'm going to give you a shout out to a whole bunch of plants that could be great allies. And I'll tell you the plants, and then I'll tell you why I'm going to plant medicine. So basil, ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, chilies, garlic, and leeks. So where I'm going with this is everything that's being given as advice is always great when you have an emotional, situation going on. But what I have found with myself and with others is you have to fear is cold. You're going to have to warm up your body to warm up to the world. So for you to think you're just going to I'm going to just crack open and put myself out there, it's like heart-wrenching. I mean, it's almost painful. Cold hurts that they can't just do it, and let themselves be seen. So sometimes you got to get really warm inside your body and in your blood, where you almost just can't contain yourself. And you start looking at the world and presenting yourself and presenting your voice in a different way. So if you want to radiate more, we need fire behind it. So we can talk into the ground, or you could go more physical, and then you could know that you have a goal that if you get more fire moving in your body, you're wanting to show up more and let yourself be seen. So again, basil, ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, leeks, garlic, arugula. You might be protein deficient, and that's going to make me want to give you meat, but I don't know what you look like. But if you're protein deficient, you might be the person who's running too cold, and I just want you to rev in your blood. And this might be gross to some people, but that's when Ayurveda uses blood, which is meat. You use blood to build blood, and you don't have to use it all the time, and you can use it locally, and you can be smart, but that is what would build your blood and satiate that. And I want to help you get to a physical place where you can't contain yourself, and your fear kind of melts away, And then I'm going to give you one more thing that my dad gave me when I was young, and I was having all kinds of weight issues, and a boy told me I was fat, and I told him I liked him, and he said I was fat, and I was just
devastated.
I was devastated.
Oh, that's awful.
And I was crying in my room, and I didn't want to tell him, but I can totally talk to my dad about anything. I'm very lucky that way. And he finally was like, no, tell me. And I told him, he sat and he listened and listened and listened. And he said, hey, I have some really good advice for you. And I was like, what? I mean, seriously, I was very young too. And he goes, take it or leave it. And I was like, what? And he's like, take it or leave it. You need a take it or leave it attitude. People either see you and love you and want to know you, or they don't. And you do not need to be bothering with anyone who doesn't want to see you or be around you. You don't need to bother with any of those people. You focus on the people who want to be with you, want to be around you. That's all you need to do. Take it or leave it. He said that'll work with boys, that'll work with friends, that'll work in the workplace. You just don't worry too much about the people who you're not connected to, and you give everything you got to the people you are connected to. It's a take it or leave it situation. And I have lived by that as far as like being seen, you know, and having a lot of self-worth issues, more than people realize because I'm so out there, you know, but it is like really hard. And, you know, this pandemic forced me into this like deeper exposure. And I mean, Andrea knows I have been like hiding this whole time. Not really in a group, you know, because I love groups and I'm social. So I can get into a classroom and be like, oh, it's just them. So I'm safe. So I'm going to be out there and do it. You know, they already chose me, so I can do it. But this is different. You know, there's like millions of people out there who could take it or leave it.
And I think I was in a very similar situation when I got started. I remember just now, you gave me Strong Woman syrup. There's a local gal that makes a product by Taproot Medicine. That Strong Woman syrup was important. You also gave me St. John's wort, which I'll put a caveat is not always great if you're going to be going in the sun. So to look into that a little bit, if you were to incorporate St.
You
John's
could do the
wort,
homeopathic.
Just thinking how much it helps you come forward. And I know that we've talked with clients that are having trouble really getting motivated, that like something as simple as stepping out your front door, grabbing a sprig of rosemary, and just lightly kind of letting that go onto yourself. Just a little bit of what we call a limpia or a cleaning in Spanish energetically. And the essential oils that are on that, those volatile gases will just come up and stimulate you and get things going a little bit. That's a cheap, easy, simple way to just kind of like wake up, get ready. You know, people will often do tapping and different exercises to just kind of stimulate the heart, stimulate the chest open.
And do your salt scrubs, because you got to touch your body.
Right.
And a salt scrub is in the privacy of your bathroom. No one's looking but you, and you don't have to do it in the mirror, but you do have to touch yourself and be willing to touch yourself with love if you want to be seen or if you want to be loved. So it's very important that you are touching yourself and giving yourself love.
That's so true.
It is so precious to be able to build your own private self-worth and build your own blood inside and then see how you show up in the world. It's a very different experience.
And that can be just tackled a little bit at a time. You don't need to get in the shower and try to do the whole body. You'll be in there an hour. But I love that you'll say, just do the arms one day. Just do the legs one day. Incorporate that as part of your 2-hour self-care during the week, where you're doing a little bit of gua sha or a little bit of salt scrub, but it doesn't need to be an invigorating 2-hour workout. You want to embrace this stuff. You want to enjoy this stuff. Don't do anything that you're not drawn to, right? And then putting in, you know, maybe the medicine that really will open and activate. I mean, I've been overdoing the essential oils apparently, but I use them a lot just to kind of like refresh my spirit and bring something forward. Scent is really key for me to
grapefruit.
Use in a lot of different ways.
Grapefruit's such an opener. It's so comfortable. It smells so good. It just makes you feel like, oh, I can totally go out there. It disperses all that closed in fear. You know, so just a little bit, 10 drops in a, you know, whole, you know, quart of salt and oil, you know, really. And you can use the refined sea salt that's 80 cents a pound, which you should not be eating. It is not an electrolyte, but you can scrub with it all day long, very cheaply.
Yeah. There's so many affordable remedies. If you have more questions, give them to us. We'll answer them again in 2 weeks. I know we're supposed to wrap up here in a minute.
Simone, where do people find you?
Oh, people can find me. I'm Simone Heals at Gmail. Also on Instagram, Simone Heals. I have a website, SimoneOliverWellness.com, or Empowered Ayurveda. That is me. someone empowered me. I'm happy to pass it on and empower you. So just come be part of the chain, because there's so much goodness here to share and to be learned. And we're all ears open to learn from you too. The last thing I will say that came to mind, complete proteins are millet and amaranth and quinoa. And you've told me before to cook them with the bone broth. So you're actually, instead of using water, you're using your bone broth and getting it with the grain. And that can be such a good building block for the morning breakfast. So yeah, I had my millet this morning with some sauteed greens and a little poached egg. So I got my lecithin in the broth, the runny egg yolk, and I'm feeling all kinds of fine.
So good. Nice. It's such a treat to see you, Simone. I'm so glad you were able to join in.
Thank you, dear heart.
Yeah.
I know I've been out in Sonoma holding it down, running my little spa space out of there, and got a couple punch of karma clients coming in shortly. So it's just so exciting to dive deeper. And I'm doing a lot of specific nutritional offerings. I've teamed up with somebody who's a former student, Tara, and she's doing Ayurvedic cooking. We're kind of just taking on a few initial clients and helping people figure out the eating piece of it.
And she's amazing too.
Yeah, she really is.
You guys are a powerhouse combo.
I mean, the classical texts and the Sanskrit and all the traditions. She knows more than I know. Just because she is just geeking out and diving in for years. And it is just really powerful what she brings to the table.
I feel like
we're such pretty a perfect
combo.
Oh my gosh. My mind is blown. Wow.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it's been a lovely morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you didn't get a chance to put in a question live, please make sure to submit your questions on our website, or you can email us at info@DeAnnaCenter.com. We still have time to enroll in Birth Alchemy. It's going to be such a tremendous course. So much has come up for me from my own birth journey, just in processing and formatting the documents. So I can't even imagine how much of a wealth of information there is to be gained. So it's not too late. Please join us. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you like what you saw, subscribe to us here at YouTube and hit the notifications bell so that you know when we will be live again in 2 Thursdays. All right. Well, thanks so much.
It's so exciting to be able to offer this. Thank you,
everyone.
Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, teacher, for having me. I love spending time with you. I feel so blessed.
Thank you, Andrea, always for keeping everything flowing and moving smooth and just showing up for so many people. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you all.
Have a great day.